us the link?
No, starting. Let's say that's it. We're doing it.
We're doing it
Um,
live.
we're doing it. Anyway, a sec.
Doing it live. We're doing it live.
And now we're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
So this is an after episode. Episode. Count Dankula. Let's do it. I got my P&M suit. I'm happy. Let's go.
Yeah, I can't believe it, but we forgot the big story, didn't we? Count Dankula facing prison for the. Wow. So if
probably
you're
not
aware of...
Let's be real. He's probably not facing prison. Like there's been lots of, like, you know, potentially he could be jailed, but lots of people have been found guilty under these stupid, like, hate speech laws in the US. In the UK. There's lots of people who have been busted, like, for Twitter stuff and Facebook stuff.
Yeah, except
he's not the first, which is not to say, like, which is not to say what he's experiencing is not serious, but just to say that he's probably not going to prison.
He might get a suspended sentence.
Sure, or he'll definitely be fined. Anyway.
Well, yeah. Look, it's just considering the judge in question here, who's particularly dim.
Sure.
I was trying to be nice.
Hey, we're in the UK. We can insult them all we like.
Well, I say that, but so for anyone who's not aware of the story, so Count Dankula is this YouTube dude who basically his girlfriend was going on and on and on about how cute her pug was.
Yeah.
Right. And what he did is he made a video and he said, "Look, my girlfriend's always saying how cute my dog is, so I'm going to make it into the least cute thing in the world. I'm going to turn the dog into a Nazi." Right. And every time. So when he said Zig Heil, for example, it would bark. Yep. When it
when he said gas the Jews, it would raise
its paw. Yeah. So that somehow. Now here's the thing: not a single person complained against this. Not even kidding. Not a single person complained about this. The complaint was brought forward by the Scottish police.
Yes. Yep.
So. Yeah, and as far as I can tell, it was the Scottish Police's cultural sensitivity person? Whatever it was. Anyway, so the point is, not a single person brought the complaint. It was brought forward by the police of their own volition. And the really disturbing thing, if anyone wants to know, is that clause that he was convicted under, literally, it was part of the Communications Act. Mm-hmm. It literally exists here in Australia as well.
Oh, really?
We have the same thing in our Communications Act in a different section, worded exactly the same. Right?
That is interesting.
So if you're one of those people,
like using a carriage service to
18C is the.
Oh, yes. 18C. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So no, it's not 18C. I'm saying if you're one of those people that's been talking about 18C as if it's the biggest threat, I've got a new one for you, and it's worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this thing literally, like. The way common law works.
Here we go.
I had to do that. The way common law works is when a court and an associated court love each other, they accepted the rulings from one another. What could happen, because we have a section in our law that's closely worded to this, or as someone else was pointing out, is worded exactly the same, but I haven't actually looked at it. But so, point is, there's a section in our Communications Act that says something very similar. There's a section in their Communications Act that says something similar. A court in Scotland, that counts as precedent for our courts. So
it could be used as precedent. It's not always. It's not guaranteed.
Yeah, it could be used as precedent.
So if it goes to the High Court can look at other jurisdictions and make decisions based on how they decided.
But truth be told, I mean, Justice Bromberg does have a totem pole of, social justice. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure I might end up copying a defamation suit on that one. It'll just be like, people do realize this is a joke.
Well, see,
right?
Come on, because you're brown, clearly you can't be racist. So...
Actually, that would be interesting. It would be a good way to test that social justice totem pole. By the way, for anyone who's not familiar with this concept, I guess it's something like the social justice totem pole. I don't know. You can look it up. It's on, what's it called? On Urban Dictionary?
Sure.
Yeah.
Probably. There's all sorts of things on Urban Dictionary. It's not always worth browsing, just because some of it's pretty horrifying. But,
yeah, but
so Jonathan Pye made a really good video. So Jonathan Pye's a comedian. He's got a shtick about being like a reporter who then sort of goes off the rails. And anyway, he made a really good comment about this, which was,
context doesn't matter, then he's out of fucking job.
Exactly. And he, he points out that, like, he makes a comparison to something like Fawlty Towers, which has a very famous sketch where Basil Fawlty, the main character, basically starts tearing to these German tourists with all these, like, Nazi jokes. And it is a utterly hilarious sketch. Like, it is just righteously funny. It has zero taste. I mean, this is a character who's, like, makes Donald Trump look like a bastion of manners and good taste. Like, Basil Fawlty is a horrible character, and he just has this horrible rant against these Germans. And if you took it out of context, if somebody explained to you what he says and goes through it, it would sound monstrous. Because essentially what he's joking about is this monstrous topic. Like, he makes jokes about Eva Braun and Goering and all of them. And it ripped from context, it's terrible. But in context, it's amazing. And, I mean, I think the Count Dankula thing, I mean, maybe some people don't like it. I thought it was, okay. Well, moderately funny. It's a little bit clever. Certainly when you described it as, how can I make this dog the least cute dog I can make it? And I think that's the context that makes it a joke. And Jonathan Pye in this thing he does, he says, the other place where you would be prosecuted for this thing is Nazi Germany. They would not see these things as jokes. They would see it as deeply insulting. Well,
actually, that was the funny thing, because he made the point that that a comedian did get charged by the Nazis for making a joke about Nazis. But you know what was funny is they then didn't prosecute him.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So it was in that same Jonathan Pye sketch, and I was just fucking laughing, going like, holy shit, this is actually true. I actually looked it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to bring it up again just to stick it in the show notes. But yes, the Nazis in 1937, I think it was, did prosecute a comedian, a well-known comedian in Germany at the time, for making fun of Nazis.
Yeah.
Except the judge threw out the case because it was clearly satire.
Yep. There you go.
There you go. Literally, this judge is out-Naziing the Nazis.
Yeah. So I think almost everybody, particularly... I hate using this phrase, but everybody on the right is universally against this judgment.
But but it's weird that on the left they're not against it, because I'm just like, do you realize all your favorite little left-wing comedians at some stage have said something racist? Right? Imagine all of those guys suddenly now ending up behind bars.
Well, except for the far left, they would be probably okay with that, or they would be okay with them facing whatever punishment. I mean, most of the hardcore lefties, I don't know, would not necessarily say, oh, this guy needs to go to jail.
No, they'd say stick him in a gulag and make them do some forced labor.
No, I mean...
For the glory of the proletariat.
The thing is, they're not like that. That's the thing. They might say, oh, this is a bit overdone. I mean, people on the left are just like people on the right. There's a mix. They have various opinions. That you could find a hardcore lefty who's like, yes, this guy needs to go to prison. Probably not. But they want to tamp down on this kind of thing. So if he got a fine, they'd be like, yeah, that's the appropriate thing to do. If he got a suspended sentence, they'd be like, yeah, that's the appropriate thing. The question is, how do you do anything about it? Because, well, there's a right-wing party in... Well, I mean, I guess it's a Scottish case, so it's technically the Scottish jurisdiction. But, these laws exist in England. I don't see Theresa May doing anything about it.
No.
In
fact, she ignored the petition.
Yeah. So you got to sort of wonder, well, how seriously is this going to be taken by the political right, by those who actually have the ability to do anything about it? And much like we saw with 18C, they just completely squibbed it.
Yep.
So kind of it's yeah. I mean, I think it becomes more of a rallying cry for conservatives to ramp up the conservative base than it becomes an actual policy objective to be changed.
Well, yeah, that's one thing I've noticed. I was going to say, I think conservatives actually have an incentive in not changing 18C, right? Because if they do change it, then they lose their base, and I think that's why they've been largely unsuccessful on the political platform on that.
I think it's
because they benefit
politics meeting apathy. So, Tony Abbott would have changed it if he could have, I would imagine, if it cost him nothing. But it wasn't going to cost him something. He had to put it through a Senate who were not on board for what he wanted to do, and it just became too difficult, and he doesn't care enough to change it.
Yep.
I suspect it would be much the same with like Theresa May. Probably less so. I suspect she's probably more okay with clamping down speech because, well, she was the home secretary or whatever it was, and she seemed pretty happy with getting all sorts of tackling all sorts of speech.
Yeah. So, but also, I think Theresa May has her hands full with Brexit, and she's a reluctant Leave person, in the sense that she's doing it because that's what the vote came out as. So,
and everybody else quit.
yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much a case of last man standing. So, I mean, with respect to this case, it's actually quite troubling in Australia because, like I said, like people have pointed out, we have similar clauses in our Communications Act, which say exactly the same thing. In fact, I think there was a famous case where, it was Mans Monis, this good old Sydney Siege guy.
All right.
Yeah, he got charged under the Communication Act for making
threats on a carriage service.
That's it. Yeah, that's right. I remember now. Yeah, so similar. Like it's probably under a similar section.
So here's a question: should that be a crime?
Making a threat to the carriage service.
Yep.
Hey, look. The High Court came down on a nice split on that. It was a 3-3, and they basically. They came down on the issue of whether that was an appropriate use of the service, not whether you could or you couldn't do it. Right? Yeah, all six seem to agree, right, that that doing the threat itself through the service wasn't a problem. Right? Okay. The question is it a misuse of the service or not? That's what it boiled down to. And 3 of them voted yes, and 3 of them voted no.
So that answers a different question.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, should it even be a law on the statute?
Oh.
I
don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. And I think the main reason why I don't think so is because when you get down to it, a threat is a form of signaling. Right? Mm-hmm. Someone issuing threats is basically saying, hey, I'm a dangerous individual. You should probably watch me.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea, and like these laws that basically try to stop someone from making a threat, it's just like, well, now they're not going to threaten people. Instead, they're going to go out and actually do shit.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the argument against it. I mean, I think, making a threat is, you can be charged for assault. Like, if I make a, I think it's treated as a crime independently of being on a carriage service.
Yeah.
So, I think I would probably, because, and I suspect that the laws for making a threat through, under a sort of an assault charge would be much stricter than the kind
assault
of things
through a carriage service.
Yeah, or threats through a carriage service or whatever. So, I suspect it's one of those things you can revert back to existing law that's a lot stricter. You protect speech more, but you're going to get more dickheads, like, people who insult, like, black football players or whatever. Like, that's what we've seen in the UK anyway, that, guys who've racially insulted football players and being charged with this stuff. So, which I don't have a problem with. Like, it's just one of those things. But yeah, that's the what's going to happen if you sort of allow for it.
That's a good point. So what I was going to say is, what we typically have in most Western democracies is a progressive, I guess you could say, bent of taking a principle of law that exists and kind of gradually, instead of making it a strict test, weakening it. And they weaken it based on, hey, we don't think this is acceptable in society anymore. And that's what seems to be what the politicians are aiming for. Right? The politicians look at what the public is accepting and they go, oh, the public doesn't want to accept that anymore, so we need to phrase the law so that that's no longer acceptable.
Sure.
Right? And I suppose from a libertarian perspective, we just need to be kind of wary that, we sort of sit in that window.
We tolerate a lot more stuff that normal people wouldn't.
Yeah.
So if somebody actually said, we need to gas the Jews, libertarians would be like, yeah, okay. And most people would be like, well, hell no, you can't say that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's just because, Jonathan Haidt makes this point when he talks about different political groupings and what motivates them. He identifies libertarians as being incredibly tolerant of all sorts of stuff. which lefties and conservatives won't necessarily be tolerant of. So, I mean, and that's true of any issue. Take welfare, take education, take healthcare. You know, if you get say, oh, what about that poor person who has no money? Well, we say, well, okay, we can tolerate that. Notionally, there's somebody out there who may not get this thing, but we think there will be somebody who covers it. But like notionally, you could have somebody who ends up being really poor, and most people say that can't happen, and we say, well, there's usual. So like it's like libertarians are often out of step of the attitudes that other people have towards these issues. Well,
I think I suspect it's because libertarians basically play a risk game, or rather, they play a game that understands risk and trade-off.
Yeah.
Right, and I suspect largely that the other side, it's not that they don't play the game, it's that they don't care.
Well, you mean as in like they're not as fazed by unintended consequences?
Yes.
Yeah.
So like libertarians are quite fetishistic on trying to have minimal impact on individuals.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if I said, should someone be sacrificed for the greater good?
Yeah. The greater good.
Yeah. But if I said that statement, and I know this because I did it frequently at university, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
A large percentage of the population would say that.
Yep.
Would say that they would agree with that statement. And I would go like, cool, what if it's you? What if you're the sacrifice? And the person goes like, what do you mean? Who decided that? I said, you don't get to decide, man. You just said for the greater good, right?
The greater good. Sorry, I gotta make that joke every time I hear this phrase because it's from the best comedy movie of all time, Hot Fuzz. Love it.
Yeah, but the point is, right, like, I don't think people understand when they make statements like that, the way society works isn't that, like, it's organized, or I'm sure, like, it's organized, but it's not organized in a way where we determine where to direct these unintended consequences. And I think libertarians tend to be more mature about that because we kind of realize, hey, what's mine is good, right? But understanding what's yours is kind of better.
Yeah.
Right? And libertarians understand the give and take relationship.
Yeah.
Well, as other people don't, and I'm sort of paraphrasing Tom Palmer here, people grow up and understand mine very, very fucking quickly.
Yes.
Understanding yours, right? That takes a level of maturity that most people do not develop well into their adult life.
Sure, yeah. And I think there's lots of acceptable prejudices, like, targeting rich people to go after their stuff or go after their freedoms. Like, that's generally, even now, amongst fully grown adults, an acceptable thing. Like, if I say, we need to tax the rich, we need to soak the rich. Well, every time you get around to tax, the rich don't pay their fair share. Well, what's their fair share? Basically, it boils down to more. They need to pay more. They're never paying their fair share. We libertarians would say, well, that's ridiculous. Because we have a principled kind of, and let's be real, also, like, we're weird nerds about policy. So Jonah Goldberg makes this point of saying libertarians are policy nerds broadly, and most people aren't. So
and also there's a question.
I mean, to be real, I can understand. Like, in some ways, other people are more sensible in that regard. Like, we should care less about policy because our ability to change the world is very minimal, and we spend a lot of our time thinking about this stuff that we can't change, and most people just get on with their lives. But I guess.
Well, that's actually one of the reasons why, and we're kind of drifting from the main reason for this after hours thing. I cannot emphasize how many times I've gone to libertarian events and gone like, "Oh, you're an economist, right? So you're effectively contributing nothing towards, pushing libertarianism, right?" Like, Mike Munger came out here and he did that fantastic thing about permissionless innovation, right? And I'm just like, sounds great. I agree with you 100%. Why the fuck are you at university talking about this and not actually out there innovating?
Sure.
Yeah. And that's been my general complaint about libertarians in general. Look, when I started this, like, little podcast experiment thing, it was literally just me going, why does no other libertarian have a podcast?
Yep.
Right? And even though we're, like, small, I'm actually really glad that there's, like, 6 or 7 of them now here in Australia, right? I mean, we probably should do more collaborations with them, but I'm really glad that got started. And it was largely through a hatred of the topics that we covered. But, right, my point is, right, I didn't go out and ask for permission, right? I didn't go out into the rest of the community and go, hey, we should do this, right? I just went out and pushed it out. So I think libertarians are really good followers, right? But they don't tend to lead, and that's something that needs to change.
Well, to be fair, I think it's hard for anybody to lead. So, if like all these ideas were like, like coming up with a good idea is easy. Coming up with a good idea that works is hard. And that's why there's so few people who do it. So, if I had the perfect way for making the best podcast that got all the monies and all the views, and we could be like, the hardcore libertarian Joe Rogan, like, with Joe Rogan's level of popularity, we would probably do it. But it's flipping hard to do what he does. There's a reason why there's only a handful of people who do this for a living.
Yeah.
So,
like, it'd be hard to do what Joe Rogan
anything
does.
else, like any other aspect of...
Have we considered the other direction, though, the Alex Jones angle? I mean, like, I could come up with conspiracies on the fly. I mean, I'm good at that.
Turning the platypus is gay or something. I don't know. Yeah, well, that's it. All right.
I can make my own water filtration system, too. I mean, I can do that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, there you go. Maybe we've got an avenue we could explore in future. I need another bowl of soup, so we need to wrap this up. So, final thoughts.
Count Dankula, Count Dankula's sentencing would be a crime.
Yep. Agreed. All right. Thanks for that's the after episode. Done.